What's up, guys? Monday morning. Just wanted to get y'all caught up on a little football news from the past week. We'll talk about a few things. First thing, the NFL rules committee meeting this week, and one of the things to talk about, of course, is the catch rule and how they've taken something so easy and turned it into something so complicated as catch is beyond me. Um, now they've come out and said that Dez Bryant's no catch versus the Packers and Jesse James no catch against the Patriots should actually been catches. Um, to me, that's like a slap in the face. You can't go back and get those two teams or those like the Packers and the Cowboys. Can't go back and get the Patriots and the Steelers and finish that game. And were both plays were determined the outcome of the game. And the Packers Cowboys game, a playoff game. Steelers and Patriots game was uh, Steelers would have had home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And people say, "Well, you're upset because you're a Steelers fan," and I am. But I'm not a Cowboys fan, and that was just not right. And there's been other instances. Back in 2005, a lot of people don't talk about this, but if you go back and watch 2005 divisional playoff game, Colts Steelers. Steelers ahead. Colts driving down the field. Uh, Polamalu intercepts the Peyton Manning pass. Rolls on the ground twice. Gets up. The ball pops loose. He jumps on the ball. And it's called, initially on the field, it was ruled an interception. And that would have pretty much sealed the game. But instant replay come up. The Colts challenged it. And instant replay come up and overturned it. And the Colts ended up going down the field and scoring a touchdown and got, within, I think they got within 3 points of the Steelers. And almost ended up tying that game. If Vanderjagt hadn't missed that field goal, they would have tied the game, sent it overtime. Uh, you know, and now they're saying they're going to keep, 2 feet down, control of the ball, and now a football move. And this is where I have a problem with. A referee has got to make that decision on what a football move is. You don't, but you've got to make it more clear cut than that. You've got so many branches off of this rule. When you make the catch, well, he became a runner, just like the Eagles in the Super Bowl. That guy became a runner. When does a referee determine you become a runner? That's what I'm saying. Because when the ball crosses the plane, when you're a runner, it's automatic touchdown, whatever you do. Just like that case in the Super Bowl with the Eagles. So they've got to make it more clear cut than this. It's just like I said, you've taken something so easy and made it so complicated. And hats off to the NFL for that. But we'll get into another ridiculous rule that hadn't you haven't seen yet. So we'll get to that a little bit. Next thing, to get to my Steelers. Steelers and Le'Veon Bell have tabled contract talks. And I'm like this. I can understand both sides. Steelers don't want to pay that much. But Le'Veon has got a good point when he says he is probably, if not the best running back in football, he's one of them. I put Todd Gurley up there with him. And the man has a point, but about when you can put him at receiver, and he could play receiver on most teams. And he is effective as a receiver like he is at running back. So he wants to get paid as a wide receiver and a running back. But I don't know if that happened. It never happened like that before. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm kind of just frustrated with it. I'm ready for him to either trade him, and let him go somewhere else, or sign him. Sign a guy and give him what he deserves. But you can't keep playing this because it's not good for either side. Do I want him signed? Yeah, I'd like to have the same team we had last year back, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Ndamukong Suh had an offer from the Jets earlier in the week, and they rescinded that offer. And I don't know why, but I guess he may have turned him down, and they just came out to try to save face. But looking like the Rams are the best shot at getting Suh, and that will turn the Rams defensive line probably the best defensive line in football if he can get his attitude straight and play like he's capable of, yeah, he can. He could. They could give them the best defensive line of football. And you watch out for the Rams next year. You got an improving team. It looks like the defense is getting better. They're adding a few things here and there, but that's one of those things. You never know. We just have to see how Goff performs. Next thing, kind of surprised me this week. Jason Pierre-Paul gets traded from the Giants to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Surprising because I didn't think they'd do it. I thought maybe if they did, it's kind of clearing the way to pick Bradley Chubb from NC State defensive, or the linebacker from NC State. He would play defensive end. A really impressive guy, could really be the sleeper of the draft, even though he is going into the top 5. Kind of cleared the way for that, which I think would be a good pick for him. But you still could have kept Jason Pierre-Paul at New York. So I'm not understanding the move, but it's not meant for me to understand, evidently. We talk about ECU Purple Gold game. Hope Nailers, and I hope I'm saying that name right, but if I'm not, excuse me. His debut in the Purple Gold spring game went pretty good. He was 12 for 18, almost 200 yards. Reed Herring was the quarterback for the other team, and he was 12 for 20 for over 200 yards. I believe Reed Herring's team won 21-14. Trace Christian, running back, 15 carries for 97 yards and scored 3 touchdowns. So, you have to keep your eye out for that name next year. Hopefully the defense played good, especially the secondary. Now, you want to see that secondary improve from last year because they weren't real good. Defense wasn't really good for ECU last year. And, I'm an ECU football fan, have been for a long time. But, hopefully they'll improve this year because last year was a disaster in a lot of ways for ECU. Here is one of the other rules that I was talking about with the NFL. And excuse me, I was not aware of it until one day this week. If you're not aware of the overtime rules, NFL has changed it over the past few years, and it's trying to make it a little bit better. Where if the team A gets the ball first, let's say for instance, team A is the Steelers. Steelers get the ball first. Well, if the Steelers were to score a touchdown, game over. If Steelers go down and kick a field goal, let's say team B is the Cowboys. Cowboys would get the ball back with a chance to score, tie it up again, or to win the game. Which gives it's a little bit better because it gives both sides a chance to get the ball. Here's the catch with this rule. All right, let's say the Steelers kick a field goal in the first possession. Cowboys get the ball back, drive down the field, throw an interception. Once they throw the interception, let's say the Steelers guy is going down the field, he fumbles the ball, and the Dallas guy picks it up. And, guess what? By NFL rules, looking at the rule book, once the Steeler guy intercepts the ball game is over. It's a dead ball. Even when he doesn't go down, it's a dead ball. So you tell me how it would have worked out if that had happened. A Cowboys guy picked up the fumble, took it in for a touchdown. If that had happened and they had called the game was dead and over, oh my gosh, it would have been so terrible for the NFL. So and it makes no sense. The play shouldn't be dead until the player is down. I hope this doesn't come into play any, because I think it's still a rule, unless they are changing it this year, and I hope they do, because this will be bad for the NFL if something like this would happen. Also, some sad news this week. Wayne Huizenga, the former owner of the Miami Dolphins, passed away, and, our condolences go out to his family, but, I know he was big time with the Dolphins back in the 90s, brought Jimmy Johnson in, and we certainly send our condolences out to his family. Alan Hearns, former Jacksonville Jaguar wide receiver, signed a contract with the Dallas Cowboys. What does this mean for Dez Bryant? Looking like Dez Bryant may be going elsewhere. Because this contract was not one of those 1 year, $2 million. It was a good contract, and it kind of sent a message that maybe Dez's time's over. And me personally, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I think it's probably best for both sides of the ball if Dez was gone. I think it's best for Dez. He gets to change the scenery. He gets to go to a team maybe where he can uh, be the go-to guy, and he should have been the go-to guy this year. But his attitude, he wanted the ball, but when you want the ball, and you don't have to throw tantrums on the sideline. We all saw that with Terrell Owens. Uh, Throw tantrums on the sidelines like he did in the last game against Seattle, and they finally throw him the ball and he fumbles. Then he tips the ball and the ball gets intercepted. And tips, that could have been Prescott's fault. The ball was behind him, but still, if you're as good as Dez makes himself out to be, you make that catch or you knock the ball down. But I think it's best if Dez is gone from Dallas, and I think he will be gone. Uh, Michael Bennett, former Seattle Seahawks defensive end, signed with the Philadelphia Eagles this offseason. And one of the reasons Seattle said they wanted him gone was to have a less talk in the locker room and less controversy. And that was probably a good move because he is currently under fire right now and supposedly turning himself in to the authorities today for assaulting an elderly woman at the Super Bowl this year. Now, I know there's two sides to every story, and I haven't really seen everything, but, anytime an NFL player pushes or does something like that, unless they're provoked by, especially an elderly lady, doesn't look good for you, especially with your past reputation. But yeah, what I read this morning was he's supposedly turning himself into the authorities. Dolphins fans, your saga continues of questionable moves. I don't know if it's questionable, but it's certainly not a popular move with Dolphins fans right now. The Dolphins signed former Denver Broncos and Houston Texans quarterback Brock Osweiler. I think it was a 1-year deal, and the Dolphins fans, for the majority of them I've talked to, are not happy about it. One comment I got on my webpage was, I'd rather have Ryan Leaf, and that's pretty bad when you'd rather have Ryan Leaf over Brock Osweiler. But you have to wait and see. I hope Tannehill, and I know a lot of Dolphins fans aren't crazy about Tannehill, but he did get you to the playoffs, and he did get me some good fantasy points 1 year before he got hurt, and some garbage points. But yeah, NFL draft. It'll be in Dallas this year, so it'll be a lot of people there that you've already seen. I know I had a story on the Final Score webpage that there was a lot of people already requesting tickets, and media presence will be unlike no other year in the draft. This it's going to be for the first time ever. Actual broadcast stations like Fox and ABC will be covering the draft. Of course, you already got the NFL Network and ESPN have their coverage, but Fox will cover rounds 1 through 3. ABC will cover rounds 4 through 7. So, if you don't like NFL draft, you don't like NFL football, on those nights you might want to just turn the TV off or flip over to the movies or whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. Of course, I'll be watching probably all 3 channels when they come out, and it should be interesting to see it in Texas Stadium, excuse me. Yeah, I think that's what it's called now. I can't keep up with it, but anyway, it's a big place. Should be interesting to see what kind of turnout they have for that. Last thing I want to talk about this week. I'm an ECU football fan. I said that I've been that since '83 when Terry Long, Ernest Biner were there, and I've been there with Jeff Blake and Luke Fisher, Hunter Gallimore were there. And the tough year, they were the good years. The tough years there's been a lot of those too. But one of the bright spots here lately for ECU was quarterback Shane Carden. Graduated a couple years ago. One of the few, Jeff Blake I think was up for him, and there was some older guys that were. Carden was actually mentioned for the Heisman. Get some Heisman consideration. And probably if he was at a bigger school, he probably would have got more Heisman consideration. But like I said, I'm an ECU fan, but I know they don't get a lot of respect from that no matter how good of a team they had. But put up great numbers when he was at ECU, record setter all the way around. Had a good relationship with uh, Justin Hardy, responsible for getting a lot of most of his catches there, and just had a great years with ECU. And he's decided he's going to hang it up. He was playing arena football last year. He had some time overseas playing football, and uh, we wish him the best. Got to see him play at ECU. Played the Carolina game where they played in Greenville, and ECU won 70-41, and it was a really special night. Everybody that was there remembers. If you were there, you remember the sunset over the purple sunset over the shoulder of the stadium, and the numbers they put up that night. That was just awesome. We wish him well. Hope everything goes good for him. I'll be back a little bit later on with some talk about the Final Four, about our little competition we've got at on the Final Score webpage, the tournament pool. It's like a log jam. It's like a NASCAR race at Talladega or Daytona. 1 minute you're sitting dead last, next minute you're right up there at the lead, and that's how it's been this whole time with this tournament. I'll give out the top three people right now going into the Final Four, and we'll talk a little bit about the matchups, and then we'll come back and do a wrestling update. A lot of big news in wrestling this week. Daniel Bryan, what went on at Raw and SmackDown last week. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about I think New Japan had their big event last night. We'll talk about that. Young Bucks had a good match. We'll talk about some of that, and we'll be back later. That's the Final Score, guys.